Hello everyone. Welcome into KCTV5 Plus streaming. I'm Katie Byrd. Right now you have a live look, a view from the National World War I Museum and Memorial. You guys, I just absolutely love this view. I hope you are also loving the fall temperatures. If you just watched Luke Doris's evening weather update, they're staying around for a while and I could not be more pumped. We have a lot to break down this evening on the KCTV5 Plus streaming desk. Before we get into your top local news updates of the day, I am wanting to show you guys a feature story. This is of two Kansas City jazz musicians. I sat down with them earlier today here at KCTV5 to talk about their recent cultural exchange trip. They just returned from China. They're even still a little bit jet lagged, but they set all of that aside to talk about this truly once in a lifetime experience, getting to share one of Kansas City's pastimes in another country. I want you guys to go ahead and listen into my conversation now with Charles and the team. Hello everyone. Welcome back to KCTV5 Plus streaming. I'm Katie Byrd. Today by two Kansas City jazz musicians, James Ward and Charles Williams. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Good to be here.
Yeah, so you guys just had a once-in-a-lifetime trip to China. You were there for almost 2 weeks, representing Kansas City jazz on a world scale. I want to start from the very beginning, though, and I would love to hear from both of you guys. Could you tell me just a little bit about your background in jazz music?
Well, I'll say that I've been in Kansas City all my life, and I started to love jazz music when I was in high school. And I went to Sumner High School in Kansas City, Kansas, under the director was Leon Brady. And our band went to Paris in 1972, and we won first place band in the world at a competition. And so
Wow.
the love of jazz just stayed with me. Of course, I grew up listening to it as well.
Yeah.
And now I'm with the Kansas City Jazz Orchestra. I've been with them about 23 years. They have existed. I do a lot of venues here in Kansas City. I'm with the Jazz Museum Board. I teach at the Jazz Academy here in Kansas City, working with kids, as well as private instruction.
That's incredible. And James, what about you?
Yes, I was raised in a musical family, a musical household. When I grew up, I realized that my mother was playing Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk around the house. And so I was raised in music through the church. Then there was a program called Jobs of Note where they paid us over the summer to learn jazz and perform, all over the city. And it was people like me, Paul Roberts, and other people around town that are like almost veterans of the industry that came up under that jazz program. And a lot of the teachers were grad students at the time at UMKC. So that's my beginnings in jazz. Then I went to college and went on to play with other people.
Wow, that's incredible. And I do want to ask you guys a little bit more about the foundation that you traveled with. So it was the Edgar Snow Memorial Foundation. We know, he's a legendary Kansas City journalist.
Yes.
And so I'm curious, could you tell me a little bit about how you were selected to play jazz in China?
Well, this was actually, we were asked to play.
Wow.
Through the guy that was highlighted there, Bobby Watson, who is a Kansas City jazz icon and an icon of jazz known worldwide, Bobby Watson, who I've been friends with since we were in our late teens.
Wow.
And, just kind of piggyback on that first question, we were involved with a lot of jazz programs through the National Endowment of Arts. So they brought in people like Dizzy Gillespie, Cannonball Adderley. A lot of these guys are gone. They played with Duke Ellington and Basie. And that just kept our interest in jazz. So he called, said, "You want to go to China?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." So we made it happen, and we've been and gone back. We're going, it's all done now.
Wow.
But the foundation is first of its it was a first of its kind cultural exchange for the Edgar Snow Memorial Foundation in the 40-year symposium history. So this grew out of a virtual concert between Edgar Snow Memorial Foundation, the American Jazz Museum, the Blue Room, and Jazz at Lincoln Center in Shanghai.
Wow. Such an amazing collaboration. And Charles, I know before this interview, you were telling me about some of the highlights of that trip, you know, the food, just the experience, and just getting to collaborate with some of the Chinese students who are learning jazz. And I know you guys did teach them as well. So could you tell me a little bit more about what it was like to teach those students?
Okay, you want me or you want James?
Yeah, either one of you. You
James,
guys can
I'll let
both
you go
chime in.
ahead.
Yeah, James.
Well, what we discovered is that they knew how to play jazz already. So what we contributed was the nuance, you know, that it takes to play jazz in a bluesy style, or like Kansas City jazz. Like Kansas City is like, you know, jazz grew up in Kansas City.
Yep.
In the 30s and 40s. So we were teaching some of the nuances in jazz because they could play already. So that was the cultural exchange. And yeah, that was it. The students could play already. So we're looking forward to going back or having some of them come to the States and do a collaboration, you know, education collaboration.
Such an incredible opportunity for both you and those students in China. Now, Charles, I know you mentioned you guys also visited a children's hospital with Children's Mercy staff. I'm also curious, could you tell me a little bit more about what that was like?
That was really, I mean, I didn't realize that how deep that was going to be, how we were going to be actually involved with doctors. This is part of the relationship through Edgar Snow that they're building, is to have doctors exchange medicines with doctors in China, ideas. And we were part of delegates to go to be a part of that. So I said physicians and musicians, you know, working together.
Yeah.
This is the start. So things and relationships got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
So we just happened to be the first ones to go as musicians to play jazz in China. And we were with the top staff at the hospital there. We went to look at some of the kids in the hospital, which, you know, touched our hearts, seeing them laying there, you know, but it was good, even though I'm not a physician, but it was just a great thing to be a part of that, to see that we're a part of making relationships even with the medical world as well as the musical world, you know.
And by the way, Charles played an amazing piano solo in the lobby of the hospital with all the guests and everything. And I thought that was great.
Yeah,
Wow.
the doctors. So we have a piano out here, you know. Of course, they didn't say it in English like that. But there was a little grand piano, and they wanted to hear some music. So I didn't know that was going to happen. That was impromptu. But
Wow.
it was fun. It was worth the visit to be there.
Such an inspiring experience, I'm sure. And Charles, James, I do want to ask each of you too, what just the importance of teaching the next generation of jazz musicians, both here in the States and like you did internationally. Just could you guys tell me how much that means to you?
Go ahead.
Well, it's very important because jazz is a language and it's a huge form of communication. And also, jazz is really the only style of music that's purely American. So it's very important for us to share that legacy and pass it on to the younger generation and make it fashionable again. We're trying to bring instrumental music even fashionable again and something to do instead of a pocket of people here and there, you know. So to pass that on to them, the nuance of jazz, because there's lots of jazz programming out there, but in my opinion, it needs more of the nuance, the swing, the blues, and those type of aspects, you know.
Yeah.
Touch, taste, and feel.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And, you know, music is a universal language. And they can share it, you know, in a couple of years, they will be coming possibly to share with us so we can collaborate again with them. And they'll be here in America to experience the actual American feel of jazz being here in Kansas City, where there's a lot of jazz clubs. And
Yeah.
the Jazz Museum, and this is going to be a great opportunity to see them again because we made friends.
Wow.
Well, can I add real quick
Of
that
course.
my son went to China with us, and it was amazing to see him. He's closest to the age of those college students in China, so it was really interesting to see them interface, and they were really inspired by him. So, so it's good to see that there are a younger generation of people influencing their fellow generation, if you will. So that was exciting.
Yeah, thanks so much for walking me through that, you guys. Again, such a unique experience. I'm so excited to share what you learned with the Kansas City community. Now, I do have to ask you about the jet lag and the time difference. I was very curious about that. So it was 13 hours, is that right?
That was the long flight. I mean, we had to fly from Shanghai to Hong Kong, which is 2 hours and 10 minutes maybe, and then the long flight was Hong Kong back to Chicago, which was a little lesser than going because we went Dallas to Hong Kong, which was 16-hour flight. Coming back, it was only 13 hours and 45 minutes, or maybe 14 hours, or something like that.
Yeah.
The hardest thing was kind of being cramped up in the tight seats.
Oh, I'm sure.
But you know, they tried to accommodate for as best we can, but we had to deal with that. But you know, we're sitting here now. We look so bright and cheery, but
Yeah.
deep down there's the big letters in front of me that says JL, jet lag.
That's you know, it might take a week for you guys to recover and get back to the Midwestern time zone here, but again, worth it, I'm sure. And so I am curious, Charles and James, what is your overall message? What do you want Kansas Cityans to know about jazz, what you do, and this trip?
Well, the main thing is to support jazz and support the culture of jazz, because there's a lot of other styles of music that are more accessible to young people, and it's easier to get into, but jazz is, as I'm finding out, is an upper level activity. To have a jazz band even in a school is something that's really extracurricular.
Yes.
So that's the thing, to support it. You know, let your kids get involved with jazz, and I think that jazz is making a comeback whether we like it or not. But grab a hold of it and support it.
Yeah, and jazz is the only genre of music that you can do improvisation with it, and that's something that you play with your soul. Everybody has a soul. Everybody has a feeling, and that feeling comes out through your instrument, through jazz. And the connection with other countries and other people and children we work with is so important. And it's a positive thing. It keeps them out of trouble. It's something they look forward to. Working at the Jazz Academy every Saturday at the Jazz Museum, kids love coming there to learn, and we see them progress. And it's hard to say goodbye to them when they become seniors and going off to college.
Oh, yeah. You know, I think, like you guys said, exposure to this genre is just so important, especially for students and kids who are younger. I know lots of schools don't have jazz bands,
Right.
but they have other programs. And so,
Yes.
you know, I think if more schools can implement either jazz clubs, jazz bands, anything like that, that will really help the next generation learn about the music, because like you said, it truly is uniquely American, unique to this country, and it's something that I don't want to go away, and I don't think it will, especially with the work that you guys are doing. Is there anything else you guys want to add about the trip, or just, you know, the foundation in general?
Yeah, I wanted to say that Bobby, like I said, Bobby Watson was the guy that was really, they had what they call a master class. And since he's a master of jazz, and he's a Kansas City jazz legend, and actually played with the late Art Blakey in New York years ago, and just done so many things, he was able to do some, you know, critiquing, and we added our critiques with him if they had questions. Like, for instance, if James questioned the bass player about some things, or we had things to say, Also, but I also wanted to add too some thanks to, the people, Alan Gray, who is a board member of the Edgar Snow Memorial Foundation, and he helped us. He was part of raising monies to get us to go there. I also wanted to thank the Mayor Pro Tem Rihanna Park Shaw and immediate past board chair Dwayne Williams, and Kim Randolph of the Heartland Black Chamber of Commerce, Black Archives of Mid-America, American Jazz Museum, and John Bluford.
Amazing shout outs. Thanks again, Charles and James. Both of you guys, thank you so much for sitting down on KCTV5 Plus stream. It was so great sitting down with both Charles and James to talk about, again, their truly once-in-a-lifetime experience. If you're curious about learning more on the foundation that took them on this trip, you can do so on this story on the KCTV5 website. Next up, you guys, I do want to go ahead and take it over to our local news updates for the evening, starting out in a small town in rural Missouri. You guys, look at this. Broken glass and burn scars is all that remains of a historic church that burned down late last night in Leeton, Missouri. Investigators believe someone intentionally set the fire, which struck overnight in Leeton. If you're unfamiliar with the area, it's about 90 minutes southeast of the metro. Now, earlier this morning, KCTV5's Nathan Brennan reported from the scene when the damage saw daylight for the very first time. Let's take a listen in.
The very definition of small town Missouri. Within 30 minutes of us getting here, we saw at least half a dozen people stop by asking how they can help, offering anything from plywood to home-cooked meals, but everyone had the same message, hoping that this church that's been standing here for over 100 years can be saved.
Initially, all the smoke was along the roof line, all the smoke coming out. And didn't see no flames on the bottom, it was all up on top.
This is Thomas Gruber. He lives right across the street and was the first person to see smoke pouring out of the roof.
There's a lot of history in that church in this town. Lose a lot of history. I don't know if they got money to rebuild or insurance, but that's one of the original buildings in town.
He says he ran over to the church, making sure no one was inside. That's when he noticed something out of the ordinary.
It was broke from the inside out. You can see where everything was pushed out, and the glass was laying there on the ground. And the back door over here was wide open. It was like someone pushed it wide open, left it open.
The Johnson County Fire Protection District confirming this was not an accident. Someone intentionally set the church on fire, leaving everyone in town wondering why.
There's no reason to set a church on fire like this. Nice little community, you wouldn't expect a nice little quiet town. You wouldn't expect them to burn down the church.
It's unclear if this church can be saved, but members of the church tell me that they're hopeful. But in the meantime, I can tell you, it's not going to be reopening anytime soon. In Leeton, Missouri, Nathan Brennan, KCTV5 News.
Now, this fire comes 5 years after Leeton's Harmony Baptist Church was intentionally set on fire, and these are the images of the aftermath from that fire. It was an 100-year-old building that was unable to be saved and was eventually demolished. Now, church security camera video showed a man setting this church on fire, and that man has since been arrested. And tonight at 10 p.m., KCTV5 reporter Betsy Webster will bring more stories from the Leeton community, who is still in shock from this fire. And next up, the Jackson County Detention Center inmate death is under investigation. I want you to go ahead and take a look at your screen here. We have an embedded map on this story on the KCTV5 website. I want to go ahead and walk you through what we know. It is limited information at this time. The death of a Jackson County Detention Center inmate is under investigation. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office said it was notified that an inmate died earlier today after being transported from the detention center to a local hospital. Now, authorities said a 44-year-old man from Independence was the victim, and his ID will be shared once his family has been noted, according to the sheriff's office. Now, a preliminary investigation has revealed that there was no physical interaction between the inmate and corrections officers, again, according to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Now, we also did get a comment from Jackson County Sheriff Darrell Fort. He says that the loss of life is always tragic, and our hearts go out to those affected as they work to find out what happened. Again, this is an ongoing investigation, so make sure to tune into KCTV5 News at 10 for the latest on this, as well as your other evening news headlines from the day. And next up, you guys, Kansas City's downtown council has proposed a plan to transform the 3-mile stretch from the River Market all the way to Crown Center. KCTV5 reporter Grace Smith gives us a closer look at this exciting idea.
It's a place millions have lined up to celebrate Kansas City. But over time, Grand Boulevard, which was once a destination in the early 1900s, has turned into a strip of scattered vacant buildings, safety concerns, and overall less foot traffic.
I think the Boulevard's needed some work for a long time.
Vito Spino is the owner of Anthony's Restaurant and Lounge, which his parents opened in 1978. He has seen firsthand how the area has changed throughout the decades.
When I was a kid, I mean, it was a ghost town. After like 5, 6 o'clock when people got off work, it was. I mean, all the way down Grand, it was just boarded up buildings and streetwalkers.
In the early 2000s, the Downtown Council looked at ways to clean things up, with the latest effort being the Grand Boulevard District Plan.
You make it clean, you make it safe, and development will follow.
Sean O'Byrne is the VP of Business Development. It's his mission to turn back the clock, revitalizing the 3-mile stretch of road into what it used to be.
This was a retail corridor that was second to none. What we want to do is make it into what is today a wonderful mixed-use environment that brings in the development that we'd like to see. Everything from residential, retail, more development as it relates to high-end retail.
So the goal is to create a master plan to develop a defined district addressing eyesores, nuisance businesses, crimes, failing infrastructure, and deferred maintenance.
It's heading in the right direction.
Changes that Spino says will hopefully put Grand Boulevard back on the map.
You know, like the people from out of town knowing, oh yeah, downtown's a spot to go. Yeah, that would be awesome.
And speaking of city improvements, Kansas City leaders are expected to consider proactive pothole repair strategies. The city currently uses a tracker, and it's used to keep up with these reports. But Councilman Crispin Rios says this is slow, and the damage to vehicles is done before they find out. Now, if the council approves a resolution on Thursday, the city manager would have 60 days to take a look at how other cities tackle potholes and use their approach to come up with something more proactive here in the metro.
We get the resident satisfaction survey results around this time of year, and street maintenance is always at the top of the list, and we ordinarily score very low. So to come up with a strategy for the proactive identification of potholes so that we can go out and fix them before it comes in the form of someone that's angry as a complaint.
Again, you just heard from Kansas City Councilman District 4 at-large Crispin Rhea. Now next up for your local news headlines this evening in Jackson County, no excuse voting has started, and there are a few key items on voters' ballots. KCTV5's Gabby Luma brought more today from the polls. Now the first question asks whether the county assessor should be elected or appointed. All county residents can vote on this, and this ties back to the assessment issues, of course, and the community calling for accountability. Now, the second question, it's for the independent school district voters only, and they will decide whether to adopt a 4-day school week for 10 years. Now, they've already been doing this, but now the district needs voter approval for it to continue. Now, election officials urge voters to make their voices heard on issues that will impact their community for years to come. Go ahead and take a listen in.
Don't show up, you let that 21% make the decisions in whatever election that is, be it your school board, whether it's your city council, whether it's president. You know, presidentials have an 80% turnout, but all other elections, we do good to get 15 or 20.
Again, that was Tammy Brown, Jackson County Board of Elections Director. And speaking of Jackson County, KCTV5 reporter Ali Espinosa got a one-on-one interview with interim Jackson County Executive Phil Lavoda earlier today to speak on his goals as a leader of the county. Go ahead and take a listen into their conversation now.
The assessment department and in the county executive.
County Executive Phil Lavoda says he's working to rebuild community trust after years of dramatic property tax increases.
It's on me and on my leadership to make sure we get everybody on the same page and doing what's best for the people of Jackson County.
We sat down with Lavoda today. In 2 weeks, voters will decide whether to make another position in his office elected. The county assessor. The role is currently filled by Gail McCann Beatty. The ballot measure comes after property owners saw their taxes jump more than 15% without getting help from the county.
People got these assessments of their taxes that were ridiculous, and when they tried to deal with it, they dealt with the assessment department, and the assessment department is headed by the assessor. And so in that double whammy they got from this big tax bill, and then also going down to government, their government, to say, hey, can you help me with it? They weren't dealt with.
If voters approve the change, future assessors would be elected by the public. Lavoda says it comes down to letting voters take control back and get the answers they've been demanding for.
The members of the legislature did not like that the assessor had lost confidence of the people. I think everyone will tell you that the recall election was not only about Frank White, but possibly about the assessor also.
And next up, President Donald Trump has a beef import idea, but it's drawing criticism from cattle ranchers right here in Missouri. KCTV5 reporter Gianni Navarro took to the farms today to learn more for herself on the implications right here in the metro.
Here at Mocan Livestock, they buy, raise, and feed cattle, also processing the meat on site. The owner tells me this business and the smell isn't always glamorous. It's tough and expensive, and he's afraid outsourcing meat will only shorthand hard-working American cattle farmers. The owner, Jim Herzog, says they're 100% self-sufficient. The government shutdown and tariffs aren't impacting his operations, but what will is bringing in more beef from other countries. Herzog recognizes supply is low, but says that it will work itself out over time with more calves being raised. Until then, he feels there are better solutions than what the president has proposed.
You hate to see the government get involved, because really every time they get involved in something, it typically doesn't work. You know, if the government wants to do anything to help resolve this issue, there's a lot of CRP land out across the whole country. There's a lot of young farmers that can't afford to get into the industry, you know, set them up.
Herzog tells me another big issue that cattle farmers face that hasn't been addressed are the 4 large corporations that control most of this industry, leaving farmers like him with little control and higher costs. In Passaic, Gianni Navarro, KCTV 5 News.
Now, right after this break, I'll be bringing you more top local headlines as well as a look to KCTV 5 News at 10. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to KCTV 5 Plus streaming. Starting out here, you guys, some Kansas City Chiefs players were out in the community earlier today. Take a look at this. Nick Bolton and Jack Cochran met with kids at Ronald McDonald's house in Kansas City. The pair helped reveal that Kansas City helped raise $8 million from this past Red Friday flag sales. It's great looking at all of those happy faces. They even got to sign some autographs and hand out merch. This year's Red Friday was September 5th, and the flag was a special nod to head coach Andy Reid. Of course, take a listen into what one of the players had to say.
That they raised $1 million in just one day, and it's bigger than football. It kind of speaks for itself and speaks volumes. Having people in this community to give back and for something bigger than themselves, and helping other people out in need is what it's all about. That's why we play football. That's why we have this platform we have.
All of these kids are fighting something serious. 10 seconds ago, a mom was telling me about her baby with a balloon in his trachea to keep his airway open. That's the kind of stuff that's happening around here. This money helps us take care of these families so they don't have to pay to stay here.
Now that $1 million raised is a major help to the charity. Ronald McDonald House of Kansas City's annual budget is $7 million. Over the past 12 years, Red Friday flag sales have raised more than $7.5 million. And next up, local Hindus are celebrating a major festival today in Shawnee. It's Diwali, a festival of lights, and for many it it marks the beginning of a new year. Now look at this impressive handcrafted display. It's made of a couple of hundred different pieces, including vegetarian delicacies. And now those we spoke with say this year has a special meaning in particular.
This year's theme is really unity because we see a lot of disharmony throughout the world, and so we want to promote a unified message, and that kind of spans across all cultures, backgrounds, and religions as well. And then obviously the food is a big part, and so as you saw the food here, just like that, there will be a big feast all day long for everybody to enjoy the food.
Diwali is celebrated for 5 days, with the biggest day being the 3rd. And next up, it's hard to believe that Halloween is already next Friday, and this weekend is your last chance to help a spooky good cause. Jack's Hollow is a haunted drive-thru just outside of Gardner, Kansas. It collects toys to give to children in need during the holidays, and they also take monetary donations. Take a listen in to a conversation with one of the local organizers.
We'll take anything from the dollar store as long as it's unopened and a toy. Everything helps. We're always grateful for it. So yes. We'll never turn anything away, and it'll go to a child who really wants it.
When they come into distribution day and they get to pick a book, a stuffed animal, see Santa, and the parents leave with a big bag full of wrapped gifts, the look on these kids' face, that's why we do it.
Now, Jack's Hollow, again, also takes monetary donations, and the haunted drive-thru is happening on this Friday and Saturday from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Now, KCTV5's Alex Love also spoke with Tammy Dolishal. She started Jack's Hollow drive-thru. He sat down with her to learn more about their drive to help out the community.
We'll take anything from the dollar store.
Well, hello everyone, Alex Love here with KCTV 5 News, and it is spooky season around Kansas City, and we're here at Jack's Hollow drive-thru. This is a very popular spooky theme event that goes on in the area, but it's for a very good cause at the end of the year. I'm here with Tammy Dolishal. She's one of the leaders here on Well, hello everyone, Alex Love here with KCTV 5 News, and it is spooky season around Kansas City, and we're here at Jack's Hollow drive-thru. This is a very popular spooky theme event that goes on in the area, but it's for a very good cause at the end of the year. I'm here with Tammy Dolishal. She's one of the leaders here on Well, hello everyone, Alex Love here with KCTV 5 News, and it is spooky season around Kansas City, and we're here at Jack's Hollow drive-thru. This is a very popular spooky theme event that goes on in the area, but it's for a very good cause at the end of the year. I'm here with Tammy Dolishal. She's one of the leaders here on Well, hello everyone, Alex Love here with KCTV 5 News, and it is spooky season around Kansas City, and we're here at Jack's Hollow drive-thru. This is a very popular spooky theme event that goes on in the area, but it's for a very good cause at the end of the year. I'm here with Tammy Dolishal. She's one of the leaders here on
Hello, hello. Welcome back. Chandler, thanks so much for joining me on KCTV 5 Plus streaming. I know today you are covering how local food banks are preparing as SNAP is at risk amid the government shutdown. Today marks 3 weeks since the government shut down. Today I want to start just by asking you, I know you sat down with a food bank today. How are they preparing for this?
Yeah, so yesterday, Missouri announced that due to the government shutdown, SNAP benefits might not be going to recipients next month. So I reached out to Aiden Bondurant. She's the Mission and Community Engagement Manager over at St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church in Kansas City to talk to her about just what they were potentially seeing, if they had gotten any phone calls when it came to SNAP benefits potentially not going out next month. And here's what she had to say about that.
We haven't received any phone calls about that so far, but I anticipate that as the word gets out and people are aware and they're really feeling it, which they will feel quickly, I'm very concerned for how those families are going to fare, because there are a lot of people who are coming to our food pantry for assistance. And they're already receiving SNAP benefits or food stamps. The needs that they have are even more severe with these SNAP cuts, because they'll be losing that as a source of food for their families. And what we've been able to give has usually been a supplement. Now it'll be a main source of food for them. And so I worry about what it'll look like over the next month.
It definitely is a very uncertain time for not only Missouri families, but families across the entire nation as this government shutdown continues. And Chandler, I know you did provide me with a pretty shocking statistic about how many Missourians rely on SNAP each month.
Yeah, around 667,000 people in Missouri rely on SNAP benefits.
Wow. And could you walk me through maybe just a little bit more of how this food bank and other food banks across Kansas City are preparing if families don't get their November SNAP benefits?
Yeah, with this latest update on the potential of SNAP benefits not going out unless the government shutdown ends, this comes as Bondurant tells me that they've already been seeing an uptick in need in the community. She says they've been receiving a lot of phone calls, particularly from single moms who have children, and she said that they've seen an uptick in the number of families outside of their typical service area. So she's also concerned that there might be other food banks in the area that are struggling to provide the food to the many families that need it. And she said that with this latest news that there's even more concern. She says they're of course going to do everything that they possibly can to help families in the area. She did make a point saying that their food bank, which is located at the church at 52nd and Troost, typically helps those that live in the zip code 64110 in that area. She says that if people do call their food bank and don't live in that area, they're still going to try to find the resources to get them the food and items that they might potentially need. With my web story on this topic, it's up on the website right now, as well as your KCTV 5 News app. If you scroll towards the bottom, I have linked Harvesters, which is the Kansas City area's food bank. I've listed their food locator, which will allow you to type in your zip code, your address. It can help you find a partner agency of Harvesters or a food pantry that's located near you, as well as drive-through pickup locations. They have a list on their website. Again, those are linked on our website in this news story, as well as your KCTV 5 News app. And both of those are applicable to Missouri and Kansas. Now, I asked Bondurant, for those who potentially want to help their local food banks, what can they do? Now, she said, of course, it's always helpful when you can donate your time by volunteering at one of your local food banks or by donating food items. Of course, toiletries are important. She said one thing that really helps is monetary donations. She says that helps them get fresh produce, that helps them get proteins like meat. They're able to be more flexible with the purchases based on the needs of the community.
Wow, Chandler, a couple things really do stick out to me about this. First of all, just the fact that these food banks are working together just to provide awareness. And like you said on your web story on kctv5.com, there is a link to that harvester's locator. And I think that's something that a lot of families will find very beneficial. And another thing, so I actually sat down with the staff member last week from Harvesters, and we also touched on, the holidays are right around the corner. We're about a month out from Thanksgiving, and so as uncertainty grows with SNAP benefits, it's just going to be a very uncertain time for many families. And again, like you said, just really helping out your community members and your neighbors, whether it's through monetary donations, volunteering, all of that is very necessary during this time. Chandler, thanks so much for sitting down, and you can view more on this story on your KCTV5 News at 10. Chandler, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next up on KCTV5 Plus streaming, I'm going to give you a look at some of the top national stories from the day. First off, in Los Angeles, a U.S. Marshal and an undocumented immigrant were shot during an ICE stop in, again, Los Angeles, California. This is according to the Department of Homeland Security. Right now, you're looking at the aftermath of this shooting. Again, a very chaotic scene. You have countless police, emergency response vehicles, as well as many community members in the area trying to piece together what happened. And next up for your top evening news headlines. A rioter convicted in the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack was arrested on Sunday for allegedly threatening to kill Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. Now, authorities say an anonymous source told the FBI that Christopher Moynihan said he would kill Democratic House Minority Leader Jeffries in New York City. Now, Moynihan was previously sentenced to nearly 2 years in prison, and this was for his role in the Capitol attack. Now, he was not accused of attacking police or acting violently, but this year President Trump said, and he issued a blanket pardon for all these rioters, including Moynihan. Now, in a statement, Jeffries thanked law enforcement for apprehending him and criticized Trump's blanket pardon of January 6th defendants. Now, a New York judge ruled that he will stay in prison while awaiting a hearing Thursday on whether or not he can be released pending trial. Now, he is charged with making a terroristic threat. And next up, the House Judiciary Chairman has referred former CIA Director John Brennan to the Justice Department for criminal prosecution. This move from Chairman Jim Jordan is largely symbolic because the department has already started a criminal probe into Brennan. Now, Brennan is accused of making false statements to Congress back in 2023, and the referral follows the release of CIA Director John Ratcliffe's preview of the U.S. intelligence community assessment on Russian President Vladimir Putin and the 2016 election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Now, Ratcliffe's review doesn't dispute that Putin referred Trump over Clinton, but it says Brennan rushed the assessment process. And next up, President Donald Trump, you guys, he's excited about the start of construction for the new White House ballroom. Demolition to the East Wing began on Monday to add the $200 million executive event space. And Tuesday, Trump said the sound of construction is music to his ears. Let's take a listen in.
You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money. You probably...
The administration has said the ballroom will be funded by Trump and other private donors. Now, the ballroom will be able to hold 650 people. This is more than 3 times the size of the largest event space currently in the White House. And next up, the Transportation Security Administration says the longer the government shutdown goes on, the greater the staff shortages it will experience. Now, TSA workers and air traffic controllers are considered essential employees, so they must keep working even though they're not getting paid. They'll get back pay after the shutdown ends. Now, the TSA says since agents aren't getting paid, but will still have bills coming in as time goes on, it will get harder and harder for them to show up to work. The TSA also acknowledged a staffing shortage caused long lines for security screening last weekend in Atlanta. The partial shutdown, of course, started on October 1st when Congress could not agree on a funding bill. And next up, you guys, believe it or not, winter, well, it's only a few weeks away, and some people are going to need their extra warm coats and blankets. Now, AccuWeather officials say this season, intense winter storms are expected for various areas, including the Midwest, right here at home, and in Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Now, some cities, including Boston and Philadelphia, are forecast to see more snow than usual, and it's the opposite is it for the southeast and the Gulf Coast, where temperatures could hit record level highs with little rain providing relief. Now, meanwhile, on the West Coast, drought conditions are expected to worsen and wildfire threats will remain high. And while the winter season officially starts on December 21st, the meteorological winter season begins on December 1st, you guys. That's going to be here before we know it. And next up, well, very few people like it when a police officer pulls them over, but one man in southwestern Illinois, well, he's thanking the officer that stopped him and issued him a speeding ticket. The man wrote it to the Palos Park Police Department to praise the way the officer handled the police stop. The department was very grateful for the letter and said it appreciates it when community members take a moment to recognize the professionalism of its officers. And last but not least, you guys, good news for all of the soda lovers. Coca-Cola is slowly selling its classic drink made with cane sugar as opposed to corn syrup. Cane sugar Cokes are common internationally, including in Mexico, but corn syrup has long been used as an ingredient for Cokes in the U.S., and this is partly because of cost. But that high fructose product has long drawn complaints from Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, Coca-Cola officials say that the cane sugar cans are currently available in select cities, and this comes as the Atlanta-based company is enjoying success with its sugar-free drinks, including Coke Zero and Smart Water. Now, over the years, the health industry has stressed that soda isn't healthy in general, regardless of where the sugar comes from. You guys, I have heard that Coke that has real sugar versus the corn syrup actually tastes a lot better. And so, not gonna lie, I'm actually very excited for this to hopefully roll out soon in the United States. Well, that's all I have for your national headlines this evening. Thanks so much for joining me on KCTV 5+. And in just about an hour, your news at 10 will be on KCTV 5. So make sure to tune in for that. Have a great evening.
I was going to try to pop in there and be